Hello, how have we been since the last time I was on your screen? I'm hoping we have been well and kept of the Lord most definitely. This is Living Free Show with Diana, and I'm excited to be continuing my story today as we had started in the previous episode. If you didn't get to watch it, please go back to my channel and you will find it there. There are a bit of meat of some stories that I may not be able to go back to, that you will need to go back and watch, and it will be a blessing to you. I spoke a little bit about my growing up, how my school life was. I spoke a little bit about molestation at a young age. You may want, I would advise that you go back and watch as we proceed even with the story on today's episode. I'm excited about today because this is where really the story of my life started to transition from. This is after I had gotten saved. So I was somehow starting to get serious with God. And for all of you who may be saved and who know the Lord, you know there is a place that the journey with God begins. And for me, really, this is where my journey began. And that's why this bit of my story is really exciting for me. And so where I had stopped on our previous episode was, it was of course after high school. I started working, and then I went to stay with this friend of mine that volunteered to host me because I had nowhere to stay and I didn't want to go back to my parents' house because of reasons you may need to watch the first episode. And so when he hosted me, he was a very good friend of mine, so I did not say no, because I had already interacted with him for probably about 2 years, so I knew who he was, I knew how close we were, and I did not see any harm in me staying with a single guy. I think I was very naive. I did not see any harm in staying with a single guy who I felt was a very good friend of mine. He was a genuine friend. And one thing I have learned over time with myself is because I have a good heart, I assume that everyone has a good heart. Because I trust people, and I'm very forgiving. Like if I forgive you, no matter what you have done, if you do something wrong and I tell you I forgive you, believe you me, if I tell you I forgive you, you can be guaranteed I forgive you. And I do not carry those things to my present. If I decide to forgive, I forgive and I will forget it. And even if I choose to remember it, when I do, it doesn't come with the pain of what the person did or resentment towards what the person did. So this specific friend of mine, when he invited me to stay with him, I knew I have a good heart. So, and he hasn't done anything actually for me to doubt that he's actually a very good person. So when I moved in with him, we were okay for a few months. I was working, he was working, and he would not allow me to chip in to pay bills, which was good for me because I had my family to take care of. I had siblings to take care of. So it didn't bother me that he would not allow me to chip in, but it got to a point and he started pressuring me to get married. And I remember when we moved in, it was a 1-bedroom in Zimmerman, a very nice, spacious 1-bedroom. So he took the couch and moved out of his bedroom, and his bedroom was just storage for his clothes, and he would sleep in the living room. And then I know some of you are listening to me and you're like, how could you be that dumb? You know, I can see your face. You're thinking I'm dumb. I was not dumb. I was just naive. I was just this nice girl that loved people and thought everyone has a good heart. I didn't know this whole Nairobi story. So please don't judge me yet. Yeah, please, that dumbness, swallow it. Leave it. So, yeah, because I can think someone is thinking, wow, in this Nairobi, Diana, were you serious? Yes, I was serious. I stayed with this person and I was 20 years old, so please give this girl a break. So I stayed with him for a few months, and then he was like, maybe we can become something. And I was like, I didn't like him. By the way, I didn't like him in that aspect. He was a good friend. But like I had said in my previous episode, I have always known what I want. Even when it comes to a guy, I know what I want. And me, I don't settle. So I didn't like him. He was short. He was, yeah. And we love tall, dark, and handsome. Someone once asked, if you all want tall, dark, and handsome, what happens to the short and light and plump? You know, they will have their own. Us, we want tall, dark, and handsome. And he was not tall. He was not, okay, he was dark, but yeah, handsome, yeah, we can question. But he was not someone that I wanted to be seen with. So, oh my goodness. So when he started asking whether we could be something more, I was like, no, I don't think so. You are not someone that I want something more with. And I was verbal about it respectfully, because he was my friend, and I was like, it's okay that you like me in the way that you like me, but I don't like you in that way. And going back to how I had grown up, I was like, if when growing up I had many reasons to actually want to get married, to want to do can we stay or settle with someone, I would have settled with anyone because of the issues that I was facing when I was growing up. But then now that I'm here and I am working, I am earning my own money, and you're wondering, Diana, you're earning your own money, couldn't you get your own house? It crossed my mind, but of course this was an offer, so I thought, let me just stay there with him as I plan myself. But the planning of myself ended up that everything that I would save would go back to our home. But that said, when I couldn't become more to him than he wanted to become, I remember one day he had really planned it out. I had never willingly slept with anyone, so I was not sexually active. So it's not a thought that had crossed my mind at all. It was even mentally. I have not been an immoral person mentally. You know, there is that bit of where you are used to practicing in your head and having thoughts in your head, sexual thoughts, intimate thoughts with people, that when it comes to the actual action, you don't have a problem with it. Personally, I would have a problem with it, because even mentally and emotionally, I had not exposed myself in that manner. And so even me sleeping in the bedroom and him sleeping it's like my brother sleeping in the bedroom, in the living room, and I'm in the bedroom. I really had nothing. I didn't have any feeling. I didn't have any thoughts. And I didn't definitely think that he was the kind that would end up misusing me for any reason. And so this specific time, it was 5 a.m. in the morning. I remember we were both going to work. He would wake up at 5 earlier than me. And most of the times at night, he would pick whatever he needs from the bedroom, leave it in the living room. And so this specific morning at 5 a.m., he comes into the room and he's like, if I am not, today, actually he was, I don't remember quite the words he used, but it was something like, today you are mine. And when he said today, by the time he was saying today you are mine, he was on top of me, and I was wondering what is wrong with this person. And of course he was like, if you scream, you are finished over here. You end here. I looked at him. It's a hard thing to relieve. It's actually it's quite an emotional thing to relieve. And I remember that is the first time I would say I was raped. And I just looked at him and I was wondering I couldn't play it in my head. And he had really thought it out, because after he was done doing whatever he did, he had bought pills, anti-pregnancy pills, whatever they are called, those pills. You know, I didn't even know how they look like. You know, and he after the rape, and he was like, yeah, now you are mine. Yeah, I think he thought raping me would make me his wife, or he thought I would stay because he has done what he did. I don't know what was playing through. And he was a whole pharmacist. You know, and I think, of course, being a pharmacist, he knew what meds I needed. And after he was done, he told me, go take a shower, and gave me some tablets and told me, take these tablets when you're done. They were about maybe a set of a few contraceptives, that's the word, contraceptives, I think. So he gave me, and he told me, make sure you take 2 of these pills if you don't want to get pregnant. And I was like, where? I'm telling you, I could not believe what happened. He showered, left, and I remember now, if you go to my previous episode, I had mentioned that I was molested when I was 11 years old by my uncle. And because I was 11, I didn't really know what had happened, so I never replayed, for some reason, I never replayed it in my mind, and it did not bother me for a very long time, mainly because maybe of how hostile my home was when I was growing. I didn't really have time to think of what had happened. All I knew that something had happened, and I had forgotten about it. So that day, when it was January of, I believe it was January 2008, because it was just after the post-election violence. Yeah, it should have been January 2008. And actually he raped me on my birthday. Hey, the things that we remember, now I remember it was my birthday. And he was like, now you are mine, take these tablets. If you don't want to get pregnant, and then you can shower and you can go to work or do whatever you want to do. He was remorseful. He had no remorse at all of what he had done. He thought, he was like, but you have used my money. And some of you may justify that, yeah, you used his money. But even if peradventure I did use his money, that is not a way to do things. That's not how you get your money back. You know, you don't go raping someone that considers you as a friend for about 2 years just because you felt they have spent your money. Because he was like, but you spent my money, you stay in my house, I pay my bills. And I was like, did I ask you to pay the bills? I asked you whether I can chip in, and you were like, no, you are my friend, you don't need to chip in. You know, he knew how my home was, so he was like, why don't you spend the money at home? And because I am doing very well financially, which he was doing very well, I don't mind paying my bills. I have been paying them anyway before you got here. And I was like, okay, you justify, I can stay. So when he raped me and then told me, it is my money that you have spent, you have to be mine, I remember asking him, what is this that I have used that I pay you back? But then he was like, I have already paid myself back. He showered, left for work. I was left at home. I never went to work that day. I'm telling you, the filth of rape, you cannot wash it off. You want, I can't tell you how many showers I took that day. And being that after he raped me, that's when I started having images of when I was molested. I'm telling you, until today, I can tell you what I was wearing that day when I was 11. I remember I was in a very scanty. My mom used to dress us, me and my sisters, in short clothes. I remember that time I had a short blue skirt, jeans skirt, and I had a lime green spaghetti top. I remember. That is how vivid the image came back to me on the day I was raped. Because some of you may ask, what is the difference between molestation and rape? Molestation legally is what they say when a child is sexually abused. Anyone below 18 years, even when a 15-year-old is sexually abused, legally it is not termed as rape, it is a molestation. Until you are above 18, that is when they say it's rape. So when I say molestation, I mean something that happened to me when I was like a small girl. And so I had, because I was very small, I was 11, and over the years I had forgotten. I honestly never remembered even for a day what happened to me when I was 11. And that day when I was raped, that is when the images came back, and I was like twice 11 and at age 20. And I was like, my goodness, I'm telling you, you cannot wash the filth out. I scrubbed. If there was a brush that could remove the skin of a human being, it would have been for me that day. I showered, came out, showered, came out, showered. I did not want to talk to anyone, switched off my phone. I'm telling you, I have, oh my goodness, the filthiness you feel when you are raped. And at this point, of course, I started blaming myself. How could I have not seen it coming? How could I have been so naive that I would actually think that it is okay to stay with a guy and think that he would do nothing? I beat myself up in every manner that you would think. And I sat there and I'm like, so how am I supposed to go back? I'm supposed to go back to my parents' house now. So where am I supposed to stay? I am going to stay with my mom. I'm going back to of course, I have to go back to my house. And that day, I remember a few hours later, I switched on my phone and my boss called me because I didn't go to work. And my boss was also a very, very, very good friend of mine, and he still is until today. He still is a very dear friend of mine. He called me, and that time we had moved our office from Lavington to Runda. And he called me and asked me, are you not reporting to work today? We have things. Actually, we were in the middle of something that needed attention. And it was my attention because it was my docket. And he was like, why are you not at work? This needs to be done, and it needs to be done now. And I told him something happened that, actually what I told him was something bad happened and I'm not able to come to work. And of course, being a friend, he could tell something was wrong, and he was like, whatever it is, come to work, come to the office. We won't ask you to work, just come to the office and we'll fix it. And this is not something you fix. You don't get raped and saying you're going to fix it. But he didn't know what it was. And so here I was, I did my 1, 2, 3, and I was like, if that guy comes back home in the evening and finds me here, I am not sure of what he's going to do. And of course then, as much as I never thought it was wisdom, but wisdom suggested that I get out of the house. And so I left the house, went to the office. Our office was adjacent to my friend's home. So I went, and he was like, so what, he could tell I had cried a lot. So he was like, so what has been the problem? And I spoke to him, and I didn't tell him in many words, but I just told him it's just what I remember very well. I told him it's just one of those things that you happen to other people, but you don't think that could happen to you. And just like that, he knew what I was saying. And for me, that was, I wept on his shoulders that day, and I was like, where? And he was like, wow, okay. So he was like, what have you, we need to go to the police, we need to find we need to find the person. And for me, he is not someone I wanted to see again. And there was, you need to understand that back then in the early 2000s, there was a lot of stigma when it came to rape and sexual abuse of women, GBV, gender-based violence. It was a lot, but there was a lot of stigma surrounding it, that even reporting it, you knew that you would be stigmatized by the police themselves. So I decided there was no way I'm going to a police station to do this. I'm not reporting. I will not. Most likely, he's a guy. Nothing will happen to him. Back then, there was a way they would just maneuver through the system and nothing would happen to them. And I was like, I'm not going to do this. I have enough to deal with right now. I cannot. And so he was like, okay, then we go to Nairobi Women's Hospital and find out, because mostly back then, that is where you would report. In case of a rape, in case of sexual abuse of anybody, that is where in case of even gender-based violence, that is where the reporting was being made. And so we went to Hurlingham, the Nairobi Women's, and he actually took me there, got a counselor for me there. They talked to me. And sadly for me, I was treated with several STIs after that. I guess this wonderful friend of mine who raped me, thinking that I'm not the only person that he had been sleeping with. Mine just happened to be a rape, that there must have been others that he was willingly sleeping with, because I ended up with several STIs. So being treated, and then HIV was something. HIV was a disease that had become very, very scary to a lot of people. If you were sexually assaulted at that time, the chances of getting HIV back then, it was very prevalent. That's the word. It was very prevalent back then. And there was also a stigma surrounding HIV, people with HIV. And I remember when I went to Nairobi Women's and they treated me, and they were like, if you have STIs, we are not sure of what else this guy had. So because I think I was treated for STI, and they called it urinalysis or something like that. And they told me, we are not sure, we don't know what else this guy was suffering from. So it is nice, and it will be wisdom for you to take antiretrovirals for ARVs for HIV in case this guy had HIV. And I was given, back then, nowadays, I think they give the retrovirus they are giving now, it's just 1 tablet. But back then in the early 2000s, they would give the tablets were 2 and you needed to take both. The retrovirals were 2, and they gave me ARVs. Each had 60 tablets, so they were 120 tablets in total. So I had those to take, and I had the STI medication to take. So I remember at one point I was taking 16 tablets in a day. And after I stayed with my friend for a few days, this one you will laugh. Even me, this one nowadays, I laugh. After I stayed with my friend for a couple of days, he told me to go back to my mother's house. So I went back to my mom's house. And my mom saw me taking the ARVs. And my mom, she didn't know what ARVs are. And she was like, hey, you're taking medication, all of this. You can imagine I was taking 16 tablets, 8 tablets in the morning and 8 tablets in the evening. And she was like, why are you taking so many medications? And I told her I have a heart condition. And mom, if you watch this, I didn't have a heart condition. Yeah, this is me, I didn't have a heart condition. And she was very worried. Oh, my mom was worried. A heart condition, where did it come from? What happened? You've just been working. And I was like, yeah, I have a heart condition. Are you treated? Do we need to see? No. Of course, I didn't want to go see another doctor. I was like, no, I've seen a doctor and I just need to take this and I will be fine. So in the middle of taking my ARVs, I think on the 7th day, I remember it was the 7th day, I needed to get my clothes. I had made sure I had no clothes at home in my mom's house. So all this time I didn't have clothes. I was using all the other people's clothes. Thank God for siblings, you know. And so I thought, it's during the day and I still have a key to my house, or rather what was my house. Let me go back, pick my clothes, and then bring them back home. Lo and behold, of course I went. The door was locked. I opened the door, and shock unto me. When I went to the bedroom to pick my clothes, guess who was there? The gentleman had not gone to work. So, well, I'm telling you, I looked at him. I didn't know whether to run. I froze. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do. Oh my goodness. I looked at him and I could not believe he was there. And he was like, you are here. And I was like, I just came to pick my clothes. I mean, no beef. I just want to pick my clothes. I leave. He was like, no, we talk. I was like, no, we are not talking. There's nothing to talk about. What are we supposed to talk about? If you are me, what is this that you would have talked to the person? And I was like, no, he had become something else in those days that I was not there. So he was like, you left the house, I told you were mine, you are not supposed to be someone else's. And that day he told me, he got off the bed, jumped, left, passed me, went to the kitchen and told me if you will not be mine, you will not be anyone else's. And he had a knife, very sharp knife, and I'm the one who had sharpened those knives. So he looked at me and he was like, if I won't have you, nobody else will. And he held the knife on my neck and raped me a second time. Because this time I didn't even fight him. This time I didn't even try to scream, not because he had a knife, but I was already too wounded that I didn't care. And I will pause there to speak to someone who you are allowing abuse because someone has done it 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, and you are so used to it until you've become numb. You have become numb with the abuse because you have adjusted to being abused. And it's not that you don't think there is anything better out there, but you've just become numb. You don't feel it, you feel nothing. If the person beats you up, you are okay for him. He will come home and you'll be thinking, yeah, it will just be another round, and you will just let him beat you up. You will not be screaming, you will not be looking for help. You don't want to tell your siblings, you don't want to tell your parents, you don't want to tell your circle what is happening within your household because you have accustomed yourself to it. It is not right. It is not right for you to be accustomed to that kind of treatment because it is not how God made us, and it is not even right for it to happen to anyone. And it may not be sexual abuse for you, but it may not even be physical abuse. It may be emotional abuse. This person just insults you the way they feel like it. They've done it for so long that nowadays if they don't do it, it seems funny. You are okay with that atmosphere, that even if he doesn't do it, you will be the one provoking for him to be able to do it. And I will tell you why I'm telling you that. And so for me, when he raped me a second time, I did not bother to fight back. I did not bother to scream. I actually remember telling him, just do what you're doing and finish. Yeah, because you're a guy, either way at some point you come to an end. So how long can you go you know. So I was like, yeah, just do whatever you're doing and finish and let me be. But then after he was done, he was like, yeah, this is not. He dragged me into the living room and he told me, and he asked me, are you going to be mine or not? And of course I said no. You would think in that atmosphere I would say yes, you know, so that he can leave me alone. But I looked at him in the face and I told him, I am not yours. Yeah, I am not. I could not fathom or think of living with such kind of a person, because if you are capable of doing that when we are just friends, what about at the point where you think that you own me? You know, it may be even worse, you know. And so I looked at him and I remember he was just about to slit my throat with that knife. He held my hair backwards and held his knife, and I remember that day I was saved by a knock on the door. Hey, I was saved by a knock on the door. Otherwise I would be past tense. You know, the landlord came and knocked on the door, and I remember he told me to shush, you know, or shush, and he had a knife, so of course you didn't even need to tell me to shush. I was already very quiet, you know, and he was very quiet. So the landlord thought there was no one in the house. But remember, when I came in, I unlocked the door. I didn't lock it back. I didn't put a padlock back on the door. So he put his hand and he knew there was no padlock. And this is Zimmerman, you don't leave your houses unlocked. So he knew there must be somebody in the house. So he knocked vigorously again, and this time, for some reason, I spoke. And when I spoke, this person did not have, my friend did not, this person is not my friend at that point. He didn't have an option but to open the door. So the moment he opened that door, I was on my way out. Me and the landlord, tulikuwa tunapitana hivi. He was coming in, I was getting out. And he was bringing notice of, I think they were adding rent or something. And he brought, when he was giving him the notice and explaining, the guy was holding the knife at the back. His hand was at the back now. And for me, I left. I did not even pick anything. I just left that house, and this time I was like, guy, how do you go and tell someone that, you know, how do I go back to my friend's house? And I'm like, yeah, he did it again. I could not believe it. I could not believe it. I left. And that time he called we had a mutual friend, a guy. He called the guy and told him now what he had done twice. And his friend called me and he was like, so and so has called me and he has told me what he has done. And now his friend was the one apologizing on behalf of this other stupid person, and I can call him stupid because he was not very smart. And his friend called and he was the one apologizing on behalf of his friend. And he was like, so what are you going to do? Are you going to the police? That time, my friend was in the process of going to Cuba for further education. For you who know, medics like doing some extra credit work in Cuba. And so he wanted to go do something extra in Cuba that time, and everything was processed. So according to him, he wanted to go to Cuba knowing that he has left a wife at home. And so his friend was like, no, you know, he's supposed to be traveling to Cuba next week. Everything is arranged. And I was like, and I told his friend, I am not going to mess up his life just because he messed up mine. And I don't even know where that wisdom came from. I don't know where that wisdom came from, because at that point, of course, I was not thinking straight. But I remember telling his friend, you tell him to go wherever he's going. And because I understand that is why he was locking himself up in the house. He wasn't sure what I was going to do. I told him, tell your friend he can proceed to Cuba. I have no intention of making his life miserable. What he has done to me is enough to eat him up for the rest of his life. And I was like, I will leave him with his conscience. And I was like, that is how it ended. And I was left with a journey of walking with a healing. And remember, now I also remember I was molested at 11. So I have this gentleman here let me call him a gentleman with the hope that he became something good. You know, I have this gentleman here that I have to deal with what he has done. I have to deal with myself and the guilt of the situation I feel I put myself in. And I have my uncle now that I have to deal with in my head because I remember what he did. So I was dealing with three human beings in my head. I had me, I had the rapist, and I had the molester to deal with in my head. And mind you, I have gone back to my mother's house. And for you who don't know what was happening in my parents' house, please watch episode 1. It had not changed. The atmosphere the darkness in that house had become thick darkness. You know, there is where the Bible calls darkness, and there are other bits that the Bible calls it thick darkness. When darkness becomes thick, and you know it is thick, it was very thick. And I had the atmosphere at home to deal with. I had these strong medications that I was taking. I took a step back from work. And I did counseling once, just that one time that we went to Nairobi Women's. I could not handle sitting down and replaying, you know the way they make you replay the whole situation with the hope that with replaying it you forget or you heal. I was like, no, I'm not going to replay that situation. So I was, oh my goodness, the angry, bitter, hateful, young girl that I was growing up came back now into my 20s. I was 20 at that time. So I had these demons that I had to now start dealing with. And I remember this is where suicide came in now a second time. Remember, I had tried it 3 times before. This time, because I remember all my life, at least I've tried it 6 times. And I remember this time, I remember provoking a police officer. You know, back then, they would say police officers would shoot you just like that. You know, people think that judicial killings and all of things have begun now. Even back then, in the early 2000s, if you provoked a police officer badly, they would finish you at any time. So I remember provoking one police officer at one time, and they looked at me and they knew this girl is disturbed. Yeah, this one is disturbed. Ooh, she's just looking for trouble where there is no trouble. Thank God he was a good police officer. Nothing truly happened. And another time I remember trying to throw myself in front of they call them 16-wheelers, these trucks that have, of course, if that one runs on you, you are gone. So I knew I was not risking a do or die. It is a die thing, you know. If it runs on you, you are as good as gone, you know. And we were at a bus stop there at Runda. I can't even remember who pulled me back. That person back then I thought that person was very wicked. Yeah, why did they pull me? I don't know who pulled me back, but someone did. It was at the bus stop, so someone pulled me back. And of course, here I am, and with all my limbs, I am very okay, you know, and that is how that did not work. I tried it again. With these tablets that I was taking, I tried it. I tried thinking maybe if I overdose, it would work, because you can imagine if I have 16 tablets to take in a day, what would happen if I took like 36? And I had them for a whole month. You know, I had the tablets for a whole month for the doctors trying to curb the situation of me getting HIV. But somehow I did not take the tablets. That's why in my story you hear me telling you a lot of God protecting me when I didn't want him to protect me, and when I didn't think he was protecting me, he was. And some of you may be wondering, after all you have been through, why am I still here? There's purpose to your still being here. God, the Bible says that he upholds us with his righteous right hand. He doesn't give us conditions for him to uphold us. Just by the fact that we are his children, he upholds us with his righteous right hand. And for me, I believe that is what he did for me when I was growing up. When I wanted out of this world, when death sounded sweeter than being alive, he still had a way of keeping me balanced and keeping me alive. And I remember I really struggled in my mind to be able to comprehend all of these things that had happened into my. Remember, I'm 20. And already by me telling you my story, I'm sounding like a 30-year-old, you know. And so there I was, and I had to. I started getting serious with going to church. Then that was in 2008. I started getting serious about now going to church after the whole rape situation. I took a slide off work for some time. At least I had some funds that would help me go to church. And then the company I was working, the foundation I was working for, stopped doing so well. So the funds stopped rolling. So I had a lot of time in my hands. I didn't know what to do. I remember after high school, we could not go to college, so I didn't. And I didn't go to college, so I couldn't look for work. And when I started dealing with the issues of my soul, I knew I needed to attend to them if I intended to stay alive. I had to start dealing with the issues that were affecting me, and I started being very serious with going to church. That is when my seriousness with God began in 2008. So I started going consistently to church, and in the process, that is where my healing began. My healing began by me going to church, because I started seeing how things can be different, how God wants different for me. I started seeing the possibility, you know, now I was around, you know, this is JCC, Jubilee Christian Church, Ngara. And for you who have had the opportunity to go to JCC, you know how excellent the church is. And so I was challenged in my head, and I would see different kinds of people. Yes, I had related with them in my workplace, but I not where I was consistently seeing them. So being in this space where I am seeing people that are doing better than me, where I'm seeing people that are excelling in life, it started to challenge me, and now I wanted to be someone. I knew that was for me. I knew that was something that was possible for me, to live a good life, to live a whole life with the teachings we would receive in church. I knew I wanted to be a better person. And so I started asking God to help deal with the heart that was in my soul. And I realized that I had become a very angry person on the inside and become a very angry person verbally. And I would answer you anyhow. I didn't care who you are, because what can you do? You have your life, I have my life. What will you do? You know? And with that, I was pushing away relationships a lot. People could not stay around me because of the angry person that I had become. And so the Lord helped me there in exposing me to who I had become, and also exposing me to who it was possible for me to become. And maybe some of you need to ask the Lord and to trust God to expose who you are to yourself, and also expose you in environments that can show you what is possible for you, because that helps you. The moment you are sitting in your own cocoon and you think this is all there is to life, I don't think life can get easier, I don't think life can get better, you will always be thinking that is the way it is, until you expose yourself in environments that challenge you, that make you see there is something better, there is something good I can become. It is possible to be healed, you know. It is possible to be a person that is not angry, that is not bitter. It's possible. But unless you are exposed to mindsets and to people and to environments that can challenge you in that way, you would end up thinking that the way your life is the way that life is supposed to be. And so for me, I started getting challenged. And I remember about 6 months after the rape is when I now started dealing deeply with the issue. It is the time I started bringing that issue to the Lord and telling him, this happened when I was growing up, this happened with my uncle, this happened with this gentleman, and this is who I am right now, and I don't like who I am, both on the inside and on the outside. I don't like the way I treat people, I don't like the way I talk to myself, I don't like the way I see myself. And I was very blatantly honest with God, and I would tell him, and honest with myself, because you cannot be honest with the Lord if you are not honest with yourself. You have to be honest with yourself and see that this is the way I am, and this is the way things are, and this is why it is the way I am because of this. And you have to be very honest, and that is what I did. I was very honest with myself. I am the way I am because of this. And some of you may have to dig back to your past to find out why you are the way you are, why you are the angry person that you are. And I said this in the previous episode because it is key and it is important. If you do not start addressing what is making you what you are, where you are right now, you may not be able to address it if it is a negative thing, you know. And so that is what I did. I started dealing. So by the end of the year 2008, by the grace of God, I had forgiven this gentleman that had raped me. God had helped me. And I had to be very honest, like I said, for me to be able to get to that place of forgiveness. And after that, I remember I took the issue of my uncle. And sadly, this is not something I have been able to converse with my mom. And I'm even hoping she doesn't watch this episode, by the way. I will not even show her. So it's not something that I have been able to sit down and have a conversation with her about. And so when I had to learn to forgive my uncle without him asking for forgiveness, I had to learn to forgive my mom without her asking for forgiveness. And as I continued, I knew for sure that if I was going to be a different person, I needed to force myself to forgive. And I said force myself because forgiveness is hard. Forgiveness is hard, especially when you have to forgive people that are not repentant of what they did, people that are not sorry about what they did. It is hard to forgive. It is hard to forgive people that are not repentant and you are in the same household. I'm telling you, like some of you, maybe it's your husband. He's not repentant. He knows what he did was wrong, but he will not repent. He will not say sorry. And you know, it takes a lot of courage and a lot of strength for one to be able to forgive such a person when you are, first of all, you are sure and you know they will never ask for forgiveness. And secondly, you are in the same household, so you see them a lot. You see them maybe on a daily basis, and you are very sure this person will never ask for forgiveness. And so it takes a lot of grace, which is what God gave me, and I'm grateful. And I was able to forgive. I was able to forgive even knowing that he did not ask for forgiveness. None of them has ever asked for forgiveness until today. And I am okay with them never asking for forgiveness because I have learned to forgive nonetheless. Forgiving is for me. I'm not forgiving them for them. I'm forgiving them for me. I keep saying sometimes when I go to places that we end up carrying people in our hearts. We end up getting sick over people that have continued with their lives as if they did nothing to you. Someone will hurt you and their life will proceed, because if it is who they are on the inside, they will need to change fast for them to be able to say sorry. And who knows, they may change, they may not. So will you wait until they change for them to say for you to be able to forgive? No, you forgive for yourself. And that is something that I learned. And it is something that was very hard to practice, but it was something that I practiced. And I spoke to myself about it several times until I was in a position to be able to genuinely say that I have forgiven and I have no hurt whatsoever over anyone who did me wrong at that time. I'm taking a very short break to take my water, but I will be back with more after this break.
Watch part 4 of this remarkable testimony only on the next episode of Living Free with Diana.